Got myself a new NAS. This is the Synology 1621 Plus. How did I get the 1621 Plus? Well, very cheekily, I emailed Synology. I said, do you know what, in the past, I've done a video review on the DS918 Plus. I've done a comparison on the DS218 Plus. I've run out of funds. Would you like to send me a NAS, a 10 gig capable NAS for review? Not expecting much. Blow me, they wrote back, they said, well, yeah, actually, we would send you one. All we require is 2 videos on the NAS from you, and I was absolutely chuffed. So this is the DS1621 Plus. My requirements for wanting a NAS was really happy with the DS918 Plus. I've paired it with the DX517, which is the expansion unit. As you can see, I've got 4 bays on the 918, 5 bays on the expansion unit, and that's one of the great things about Synology, the ecosystem, and that's part of the ecosystem, is you can combine a self-contained unit, the DX517, and connect handily via an eSATA port on each of the units. And there you are. You've added 5 bays. And in the case of the DS1621 Plus, I can actually attach 2 DX517s. That's 10 bays to go with the 6 bays I've already got, 16 bays of storage. So, as I said, I wanted to upgrade. The only thing that I'm craving from the 918 is a bit more bandwidth. There's a pair of 1 gig, from memory, there's a pair of 1 gig LANs on there. We're moving up these days, 10 gig. It's still expensive, but we're getting there. And I really was craving a bit more bandwidth, a bit more oomph in my connection. I wanted to go 10 gigs. So my only requirement was, I wanted to go Synology. Why am I going Synology? You may have other reasons for going other brands, but for me, right from the beginning, when I first researched Synology, all the time coming back to me was, Synology is the most user-friendly. Synology is not all about their software, but they certainly seem to be recognized as having the slickest software. And it's not just about the user interface, with the whole myriad of apps that go with their ecosystem, with their graphical interface. It takes away a lot of the pain of putting together. Of course, you can build your own NAS, but for most people, that's exciting at the beginning, and managing it down the line, not so great. To have something you can just sit on the desk, and by the way, I should say part of my requirements was desktop form. Of course, you can get rack-mounted NASs. I wanted something that goes on the desk. I like this kind of form factor. Call this a desktop form factor. So desktop form factor, 10 gig capable. You can sit it on the desk and forget, it will update itself. I have not had a problem with in the 2 NASs I have personally had. And log in from anywhere. Of course, network attached storage. It's not just about network attached storage, it's about all the millions of things you can do once you've got your box. Even for me, basically I only wanted a blank server when I first got that 918. And when I realized all the things I could do, I've actually been using this for surveillance station for me cams. I use it as a Plex server, and I use it as a backup. So those drives will be for my backup. And it's doing all that without a problem. Just wanted a bit more oomph in the bandwidth. And really what I wanted, something that's going to be more of a dedicated storage server. So maybe something I could 4K edit from and have it available from multiple computers. That was my real main requirement. So when I had a look on the Synology selectors, if I narrow it down to desktop form factor, 10 gig capable. So that means already comes with a 10 gig card or will accept a 10 gig card. And by that I mean, they have a spare PCI slot where you can put in an add-in card. There's my add-in card. I did have to buy it separate. If I was doing that off the bat now and looking to spend my own money, the 7 NASs that would fit into that desktop form factor, 10 gig capable. And looking at that, it's still actually on retail prices, this 1621 Plus is the cheapest of the 7. But if you're talking about pure oomph and talking about the CPU, if I say pull down Geekbench scores and where those are available, this Ryzen embedded V1500B processor has actually got more raw horsepower in terms of the CPU. Obviously, it's going to be up for me. The dream machine there is the DS1621 XS Plus, but it's twice the price. So unless I'm looking for more bays off the bat, this to me is a real sweet spot at the moment. I will say one thing to note is because I've been talking about using Plex servers. In this 918 Plus, we have hardware transcoding. That's a big deal. If you're if you're trying to transcode, and by that I mean reduce the quality of an original video file because it's playing on something not quite that capable, or it's going over the internet and you want to reduce it in size, you're going to need something that does hardware-based transcoding because it takes the pressure off the CPU. You don't get that with the 1621. I did note most people are talking about it's the 1621 or it's the 1550 Plus, because, and the difference is, do have the possibility of 10 gig, that's on the 1621, which you don't on the 1520, I believe, 1520 Plus. So just bear in mind, if you're actually going to have a requirement for hardware transcoding, maybe the 1520 Plus is the one to look at. But for me, it's certainly value for money when you compare it against the other ones out there. Unless you're going for absolute raw horsepower, then of course my dream machine would be the 1621 XS Plus. And in terms of, well, you're saying that's a dream machine, what are the real differences? Talking about a proper Intel server processor in the 1621 XS. So already we can see, probably we're talking real business use against home use. Doesn't mean to say you can't use this as a business. You'd probably call this more of a small business unit and a bigger business when you're talking about proper Intel server processors. Off the bat, you get one 10 gig LAN on the XS where you have to buy a separate card. I did buy a separate card, so that eats in a little bit to like £800 difference between the two units. We've got 4 1 gig LANs, which of course you could bundle together, link aggregation as they would call it, and there's only 2 on the XS Plus. It is a PCI 8 times on the XS. We've got a 4 times PCI on the 1621. It's a 5-year warranty on the XS. It's a 3-year warranty on the 1621. One thing to note is, one of the great things about Synology is Synology Hybrid RAID. Normally you can't mix and match different size hard drives. Synology Hybrid RAID allows you to use different size hard drives and still set up your particular favorite RAID configuration. But you don't get that on the XS. And you may be thinking that's a bit weird. Their reasoning for that is there is a little bit of a performance hit when you go to Synology Hybrid RAID, and they're figuring businesses wouldn't want to use that. And so that's why you do get it on the 1621, but not on the XS. Obviously, it is a beefier machine, the XS. You're going to get way more concurrent users capability, but we are talking hundreds and thousands when we talk about users. For me, certainly not a requirement. I do use Surveillance Station, but still, 75 cams supported on the XS, and just 40 cams, which is more than enough for me, on the 1621. The 1621 XS comes with 8 gigs of RAM. This comes with 4 gigs of RAM, which is okay for basic, but I'm sure if anyone's anywhere near being an enthusiast, that's never going to be enough. Now, Synology do their own RAM, and I believe it's a warranty issue. If you don't use their RAM, they don't support the NAS. So don't do what I'm doing, but just to see, because this is what I do, is just curious to see what works and what doesn't work. I did buy 32 gigs of RAM. This does support 32 gigs of RAM. I did buy some Crucial RAM, a 32 gig kit. If you're wondering what that was, I will put that in the description so you know exactly what kit I got to see if it works or it doesn't work for me. Just point out that isn't error correcting memory, and if that's important to you, if you have databases that really are really important to you, you probably do not want to go with that RAM. And the RAM they give you, the 4 gigs of RAM that you get from Synology, is error correcting RAM. So I have already installed my 32 gigs of RAM. It was really easy. Just need a screwdriver. There are just 2 screws on the memory bay. Pop that out, and there indeed on my 32 gigs of RAM already installed. And if you are really a novice at this, it's simply a case of putting the springs back and inserting. So when you put them in, push it in all the way and just click it, and that's it. That's done. How easy was that? 32 gigs of RAM in there. Now, I have seen videos where it doesn't work. They don't boot. And as I said, it's a warranty issue for them. They don't support your NAS if you don't use Synology's own RAM, which obviously is fair enough, because it's almost like, you know, the Apple ethos. Use all our stuff. We know it works. All the drivers work with that. Because when you get a PC, you're getting conflicts left, right and center, and that's what is a nightmare for any support team. So you use their stuff, they know it works, it's all been fully tested, and then they will warranty and support it. So it's up to you. I got this for free, so you know I'm not going to be sweating over this. I just wanted to see if it actually works, and if it will even boot with 32 gigs of RAM. It will be nice to have a beefy server with 32 gigs of RAM. The other thing is, of course, I said the add-in card. And by the way, as I'm showing you the box, I better show you exactly what it does have. We do get our power button up here. We've got a light for each of the LANs. There's 4 lights, 4 onboard LANs, but when I add my 5th LAN, as in my add-in card, I've got no light to tell me the status of that. I do have an alert and a status light. And by the way, I am putting in a pair of Samsung 860 EVOs. I'm going to have those in RAID 0. And while I'm doing this, I'm also going to show you, because I didn't mention again, it comes with 2 NVMe slots, and they are meant for, you can't use them as storage, but they are to give you cache acceleration. One will be used for read, one will be used for write, and again, very, very easy to install because it's right on the front, on the side there. So one card goes in there, one goes in each slot, and you then got caching for read and write. Obviously, I'm using SSDs, it's not a big deal. If you're going to be filling this with mechanical hard drives, then it becomes a big deal, just, you know, having the facility to do that. So on the front also is one USB 3 slot. If I turn it around, you can see we've got twin fans that blow outwards, so they're pulling from the front. We've got our 4 1 gig LANs. So we've got 2 eSATA ports where I can attach 2 of these DX517s, as I said, to expand your storage. 2 more USB 3 slots. Obviously there we've got our power, and that's my gig card. Now I do want to show you that, and it's again dead easy to install your add-on card. I simply have to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. So there's one on each corner, and there's one holding that plate down. I'm going to remove those and show you the inside and the card. I did say there was 5 screws. There's actually 7 because there's another 2 on the top there. No, I forgot about what I need to take off. That really doesn't require any technical skills, just a screwdriver. And there is the Synology add-in card. I'm not taking any chances with add-in cards. I am buying a Synology add-in card. I believe that isn't PCI 8, but it runs at a PCI 4 lanes from the PCI. That's the cover off. That's the add-in card. The RAM's in. I've just got to put the cover back on and start it up. Before I start it up, I just want to point out again what you do get. You get your power lead. You do get 2 Ethernet leads. They are Cat5e, so obviously I've gone 10 gig. I'm not using them. I should mention those, the drives are lockable. You get the key for it. It's toolless if you use indeed full 3.5-inch mechanical hard drives, but I'm using SSDs, which does involve 4 screws, which are supplied to put them into the bay. Do get your quick installation guide, and that's about it for what comes with it. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to let you watch me start it up the first time. Check my RAM is working. If indeed it starts up, format the drives for the first time. Well, actually, I'm going to put 1 in. I'm not going to mess with RAID till everything's working. Format 1 drive. Going to set up my first shared folder and set up the add-in card. I should mention, you need to start, if you put the add-in card, but start with one of the embedded 1 gig LANs, and then set your ports, set up your IP and stuff after it's been set up, after you've installed all the software. And I'm going to do that now.
So I use findsynology.com. It finds my Synology NAS. Sign the agreements, agree to it all. Install my DSM. This is sped up somewhat. And this 10 minutes is also going to be sped up. So put in the details you're going to want to use to log in to your NAS, and indeed the server name for the NAS. Use Quick Connect if you want to be able to use a URL to connect in the future, which is useful, but I'm not going to do that for now. And this is the first screen you get, just giving you a bit of information, telling you DSM update is ready. Will automatically check for updates, no need for you to think about it. Agree to the analytics, and at the top there is where you will find your package center to install your apps. Control panel. Just make a shortcut on the desktop to my network. Switch into advanced mode so you'll see more options. Info center. I'm checking my 32 gigabytes of RAM is indeed recognized. That's great. You'll know I'm currently connected on the LAN 1, the 1 gig LAN, 192.168.0.106. But of course I want to be connected on my 10 gig LAN card, which I've added, and I'm now going to set that up. Going to edit the settings for LAN 5. I'm going to give it 192.168.0.10, and then I'm going to reconnect on that LAN. I'll put in my router default gateway. I can see the settings are there, but it's still showing obviously disconnected because I'm still plugged into LAN 1. Right, I've now reconnected on the 10 gig LAN. I'm now going to set up the hard drive. Going into my storage manager, it's showing me one unused drive, which is the 4 terabyte SSD I've got in there. So I need to assign that as a volume. I need to create that. So it's going to be basic, as I only have one drive. If I had more than one drive, then the options, of course, would be there. I'm just going to skip bad sector check for now. I'm using BT RFS. And there is my drive set up, showing under the volumes. So setting up my first shared folder. Give it a name. I'm going to call it test 1. Could encrypt it if I wanted. I'm not going to. By default, I've got read write, but if you had many users, of course, you would set up other privileges here. Under share folders, there indeed is my first shared folder. So 32 gigs of RAM, 110 gig add-in card, all working fine in my first folder.
So that's brilliant. I wasn't expecting the 32 gigs of Crucial RAM to work. It did. Now, I haven't set up any virtual machines or anything like that where I've got to start allocating RAM. Don't know what will happen when I do that. Bear in mind, warranty issue if you start using non-supported RAM. But I'm quite happy at the moment that it's working fine. I just want to give you a quick now overview of, at its heart, probably the app that will be moving forward at the heart of this Synology, because it integrates with other apps, Synology Drive.
So we're going to install the Synology Drive package center, Synology Drive server. Install, close that down, and we've actually installed 3 separate packages now. It's going to be the Synology Drive admin console, Synology Drive itself, Synology Drive share sync. First thing you'll need to do is open up the admin console. As you can see, we've got no clients, no accounts. We've set nothing up. And once we've set things up, one of the great things about this is it will keep tabs on past versions of files, and when you need an older version, you will go into the version explorer. However, first thing we need to do is go to team folder, because we need to enable a drive. I'm going to enable my home drive. As you can see, it's throwing a little bit of a fit. Once we go now to the control panel and enable home service first. Do you want to proceed now? Yes. Enable user home service, apply. And this will allow me to use other services later on. How many versions? You can have a maximum of up to 32 past versions. I'm going to say okay. Give me a warning about read-only privileges for people who may be in the team folder and want to make changes. Well, okay. Now, that's going to be my drive, but I don't really want that to be my shared drive. I'm going to enable folder I have already set up, which is named test 1, and enable that, which will become first shared folder. Okay, more notes about the same thing we've already seen. So that's done there. Just quickly show you settings. This is really where you add your jobs, your runs later. If you're going to be doing sync tasks and stuff like that, that's where you would do it. But what we want to do is have a look at Synology Drive itself. Down here it's telling you you can get apps in the client, which I'm going to show you in a minute, which is what makes this so powerful. First thing to remember is this integrates with other Synology apps, such as the Office, such as a Video Station, which will enable sharing features over and above you'd get if you use them as a standalone application. You'll notice Team Folder is my test one, and even though I enabled this in Team Folders, my drive, it's not under Team Folders, so I don't have to share my drive. Team Folder will be shared drives. Of course, this is taking into account if you are actually using this with multiple users. Of course, if this is for business or such, you will have multiple users. Obviously, this is first setting up. If other people have shared a folder with me, it will be here. If I've shared with other people, it will be there. The recent folders there, starred folders, you can add labels and all sorts of clever things. There's even a recycle bin and the labels if I'd added. But the point I was making about Team Folder, it has to be shared. So you'll need to go to User Console. You'll look for the user. So at the moment, I am the only user. But supposing I wasn't, I'd go to Edit, Permissions, and then I'd look for the folder. So I wouldn't want them into anything other than folders I'm sharing. And that means I'm giving read-write to myself. But if it was someone else, of course, I could restrict them per folder. I don't want them in my home directory either. So that's how easy it is to set up multiple users and share with multiple users. And remember, in these shared folders, people can make changes, and those changes will be available to everybody. And if you use the Office application, you can edit the Office documents, have the past versions, and all collaborate. But it's not just about sharing documents. It's about using this as a backup and syncing your own files in the way you would already do with the likes of Google Drive and Dropbox. For example, you want to use this on a PC and you want to back up folders, files to your NAS, and or share files with other people and have certain folders synced. Now, going to go to the Download Center. I need, for me, a client to run on my Windows machine. I'm going to download the Windows app and install that on my local machine. Going to start now. And you'll see there's two separate items here. You can do a backup task. So that is straightforward, backing up your files, your folders on your machine to the NAS. Straightforward backup, even though it's part of the overall package of Drive. But then we get the other big element of Drive, the sync task. And that is where files and folders are actually synced between machines. So backup is backup between your machine and the NAS. Sync task will be multiple users syncing folders that are hosted on the NAS. How easy is the backup? It's easy. Look for the machines, username, password. Now, you can choose any and all folders on your hard drive, and you can choose where to actually back it up. So I'm calling this PC backup, and you'll notice there's my home drive, because that's the drive I set up under this username, but also the team folders. So it could be a collaboration. I could have this available for others to sync with, or a plain backup just for me, and that would be in my drive. Now I'm going to use a test folder, called it my drive, and I can choose now, do I want this to back up all the time? Do I back up only when I ask for it to be back up, or on a schedule? Let's say continuous, and that's done. You can easily share links with that from that folder with others. So not just with other users of the NAS, but in the same way as you would say with Dropbox, have individual links that allow non-user individuals to share your files and folders. And that sets up. Now, there's the other flip side. I'm actually syncing with collaboration within team folders. That was my test folder. I'm going to create a sync task. There's my NAS. And now, as you can see, you can sync to your own machine files, folders other users have allowed you to share, or sync a folder in my Drive team folder, which is what I'm going to do. I've set this to sync the test folder, which is one of the team folders. I'm syncing with a separate one to the one I made for my backups, but on the same drive, and that's done. As you can see there in the client, my sync task, my backup tasks. I can, of course, create more tasks, change my settings. Looking again on the NAS itself, Synology Drive, what can you actually do? So I'm in a team folder. I can now get a link to that individual file, share that with whoever I want. If we had multiple users on this NAS, they would be listed here. And you can have individual settings. This is where we do our labels, copy, etc. We made a backup task, and I go to my drive, and you will see that drive is there, and it's using the structure that was on my PC. I called it my drive, my backup folder, and that's where it is. We just haven't run the task yet. I did mention it came with a third app, Synology Drive Share Sync, and this allows you to sync not just with users, but with other NASes, not just within your local LAN, but via internet as well. Just to show you what happens when you do have multiple users, I'm going to set up a new user. I'm going to call this one Bob. is just a plain user. He's only getting access to a team folder. Remember, write access if you want him to make changes. And this is just for the sake of sharing, and therefore I'm only going to allow Synology Drive. Now I need to let him into DSM, which is the main screen, but only that and Synology Drive. Okay, now I'm going to sign in as Bob. Bob has his own password. As you can see, there's not a lot for Bob to do, but he does get his Synology Drive. And as you can see, Bob's My Drive is empty. So Bob does not see My Drive. But team folders, he does see the test folder I made that was to be shared. So just a little taste of how this works with just on your own or with your mates in a business. It's as powerful or as simple as you need it. As I said, it works with other Synology apps. There is a big overlap with some of the apps, especially when it comes to syncing files and folders. Remember, Synology Drive does work on your mobile phone, but you can't edit your files on your phone. But you certainly can sync and look at your files on your phone.
So that's how I came to have a 1621. That was the other options outside the 1621 Plus. I showed you, I've added the RAM as the update, as an upgrade. I've added the 10 gig LAN. That's all working fine. Didn't need NVMe drives because I'm going to be using, initially, because I want to do 4K editing of this, I'm using SSDs. So I'm pretty sorted at the moment. I will come back, give you my experiences and try and do some benchmarks on the Synology DS1621 sometime soon down the line. But I hope you got something out of this video, and I thank you for watching.